Welcome to your daily dose of sci-fi adventures. New stories dropped every single day. Smash that subscribe button and ring the to help us reach 1,000 subscribers and unlock even more epic cosmic tales. Late afternoon on Xerax Prime felt like stepping into a forge. The sky, a churning cauldron of violet and obsidian clouds, cast a surreal glow over the polished spires of the Militentium Academy. From the highest peak, the ivory obelisk, an enormous holo projection flared into life, its tendrils of light piercing the dusk across half the sector. In 10,000 languages, the edict rang clear. All cadets of the Militentium Academy receive your final exam. Submit 10 combat strategies by tomorrow dawn or be forever dismissed. A dozen gravity shuttles disgorged fresh recruits onto the broad landing terraces below. Glittering uniforms and mechanical augmentations moved in disciplined swarms, funnels of ambition flowing toward the main gates. But near the eastern perimeter, where the ground jutted into rust-red crags, one figure stood apart. Nyara Vale, daughter of the Grathisian death clans, watched the holo edict flicker against her wrist slate. The Academy's demand was no simulation. It was the culmination of everything she had worked for. Since leaving her homeworld's lethal jungles, every training module, every sparring session shadowed by the specter of failure, all boiled down to this: 10 strategies, 10 points of mastery, 10 lines on a datapad. And yet, she closed her eyes, inhaling the acrid tang of ionized air. On Grathis, the world of her birth, the only strategy that mattered was survival. Predators bigger than dreadnoughts stalked the emerald under canopy. Night brought acid rains that sizzled on living flesh. There were no practice drills, no controllers to reset the scenario if you died. You either adapted instantly or you perished. At the Academy, they called it a death world upbringing with a mix of respect and horror. Elegant cadets from the cultured core worlds whispered rumors. Nyara could dodge a plasma volley, strike with a vibroblade in mid-air, and vanish into a minefield of razor moss. Yet here, even her storied reputation was worth nothing without 10 documented strategies. The wind gusted, carrying the echo of distant drill sergeants and the metallic rasp of training drones. Nyara slipped off her travel cloak and laid 8 data slates on a flat stone at the cliff's edge. Each slate gleamed with layered scribbles, field notes, improvised diagrams, coded battle flowers that exploded into fractal overlays when activated. These were her proven tactics, born of desperate engagements against creatures whose intelligence rivaled warlords. The evasive serpent, a whirlwind feint maneuver, used to slip between predators' claws, repurposed to infiltrate enemy formations. The fractured grid, a scorched earth retreat pattern, laying traps of sonic mines in a retreat to draw pursuers into kill zones. The bloodroot phalanx, deploying living flora bioconstructs to form mobile shields around infantry units. And 5 more, each a testament to her life on Grathis. She was proud of them. Deadly in theory, unstoppable in practice. 8 perfect answers to 8 impossible questions. But the Academy's rubric demanded 10. Nyara knelt and gently opened a small satchel at her side. Wrapped in oilskin was the 9th selection, the polished skull of a midnight claw. On Grathis, the midnight claw was an apex predator whose sinewy hulk prowled the twilight jungles. Its tooth-studded mandible could crack bone like brittle ceramic. A skull was no mere trophy. It was a statement of dominion, a relic of absolute victory over the raw forces of nature. Cadets at Militentium spoke of symbolic warfare, with clinical detachment drones that broadcast propaganda, psychic broadcasts to shatter morale. But the Midnight Claw's skull was primal, visceral. To stand before an adversary with that relic displayed meant, I have conquered death itself. You will not survive what I unleash. Clutched in her hands, the ivory bone hummed with residual bioelectricity. Nyara felt the weight of the beast she had felled and the countless nights she'd spent outmaneuvering its kin beneath phosphorescent spores. This was her 9th strategy, primal truth, the undeniable proclamation that in war, power speaks louder than words. As shadows lengthened, the holo edict pulsed once more. Tomorrow dawn, the deadline. Nyara rose, shoulders slinging the data slates, and cradling the skull as though it were an infant. Behind her, the Academy's outer wall shimmered with anti-orbital shields. Before her, the vast, humming expanse of Militentium's landing terraces beckoned. She began her trek down the crag-polished path, every footstep measured, every breath steady. In the corridors of the academy where steel boots clicked in precision, and walls were lined with portraits of war heroes, she would be an anomaly. 8 strategies and a skull, unorthodox, unpredictable, potentially unmatched. Her mind raced through possibilities for the 10th, an orbital decapitation strike pattern to derivative, a psionic disruption array to scramble enemy minds, already filed by some augmentaugured cadet from Axiom. The 10th had to be more than a formula. It had to embody the spirit of adaptation, the raw instinct that had kept her alive on Grathus. By the time she crossed the threshold into the militia's grand hall, a soaring chamber of mirrored obsidian and crystal pillars, Nyara had forged her final answer in steel will. Choice under fire, the strategy of leaving the 10th blank, the strategy of forging new tactics in the heat of battle, adapting to every unpredictable turn. She paused by the central holo console where other cadets digitally uploaded their strategies. They glanced at her kit, 8 slates, 1 skull, a gasp, some nervous whispers. Holoscreen sensors blinked as the console's AI cataloged her submissions. 8 combat records, 1 non-standard item, the AI intoned in its cold, mechanical voice. Strategy count, 9, submission incomplete. Nyara met the AI's synthetic gaze. No, she said plainly, count 2, choice. The 10th is unquantifiable until deployed. Until then, it resides here. She placed a gentle hand over her heart, the AI's scanner's word. A dataplex formed above the console, shimmering glyphs hinting at an unrecognized parameter. Every eye in the hall turned toward her, a tidal wave of curiosity, admiration, and disdain. Protocols hung in the balance. Tradition teetered on a knife's edge. From the lectern at the front strode Commodore Halcyon, lead examiner and architect of the Academy's rigid curriculum. His black cloak bore the 10 silver chevrons of completed doctrines. He studied Nyra's offerings, the 8 slates, the skull, and the empty slot. You have submitted 8 strategies, and this relic, he said, gesturing toward the skull. Explain yourself, Vale. A hush fell so deep that the hum of the power conduits seemed intrusive. Nyara squared her shoulders. In Grathus combat, the skull is not ornamental, it is a tactical asset. It communicates victory, fear, and an unspoken promise of brutality. It turns the battlefield's psychological edge in your favor before a blade is drawn. The Commodore's eyes narrowed. Psychological warfare is valid, but our exam demands 10 discrete, deployable plans. I offer 9. Nyara replied firmly. The 10th is adaptability, the freedom to innovate in chaos. I refuse to encase that in static text when every minute on the front lines demands a new solution. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a blade's whisper. The Academy was founded on the principle that war is science, formulaic, repeatable. Your improvisation is a threat to doctrine. Nyra's gaze hardened. Behind her, the spire's violet glow cast long shadows, as if the sky itself weighed in. Science without flexibility is failure. Doctrine without heart is lifeless. I survived Grathus because I did not follow plans, I made them. A murmur rippled through the cadets. Some looked inspired, others alarmed. Even the holographic screens lining the hall flickered, as though reevaluating their own logic. At that moment, the holo edict pulsed one final time before dimming, the deadline less than 12 hours away. Tomorrow dawn would usher in judgment. For Nyara Vale, the Deathworlder girl who dared to submit 8 strategies and a skull. The real exam was only beginning. Outside, the violet sky deepened toward midnight. Beneath the ivory spires, Nyara walked away with her head held high and the weight of 10 unspoken challenges pressing upon her soul. Trials of the Death World dawn on Xerax Prime arrived not with gentle pink light, but as a sudden rupture and incandescent flare that split the violet haze. Above the spires of the Militentium Academy, cadets poured from their quarters in tight lines, boots clanking against the obsidian floors of the Grand Concourse. At the eastern end lay the Coliseum of Tactics, a colossal arena ringed with shifting force fields and grav seats that could tilt the audience at 0G angles for maximum immersion. Today, it would host the trial of the Death World, the second crucible in the final examination series. Nyara Vale approached the marble steps, data slates strapped to her belt, and the midnight claw skull wrapped carefully in a reinforced satchel. At her hip, she felt every eye in the corridor linger on her unusual kittate polished slates and one raw bone, yet she moved as serenely as a predator stalking its prey. The arena's interior was vast enough to swallow a battalion. Holographic projectors hovered above, ready to sculpt landscapes at a moment's notice, from sulfur mist swamps to razor crag plateaus. Across the room, the other cadets assembled, core world strategists in pristine uniforms, Axiom Clan's warriors with cybernetic limbs, and even the quiet telepaths of Solus 7, who stood with hands folded, eyes closed in meditation. A booming voice echoed through the chamber. "Welcome, final cycle cadets. Today's trial simulates the unforgiving conditions of the Death World planet Solkaroth. Your task: secure 3 control beacons scattered across the field, neutralize all hostiles, and return with the preserved remains of at least 1 apex creature. You have 70 standard minutes. Begin." At the first flare of the gravhorn, the arenascape dissolved into a living tapestry of churning mists and jagged obsidian monoliths. A hush fell as Solkaroth's twin suns peeked into view, one blood red, the other sickly green. Tangled vines dripped acidic dew, and the distant roar of unseen leviathans trembled the air. Nyara exhaled slowly and slipped into shadow. Around her, cadets surged forward, some in armored exosuits, others mounted on synth beasts. The race to Beacon Alpha, perched atop a craggy spire, was already fierce. She tapped a command on her wrist slate and projected the evasive serpent onto her HUD, a diagram of her first maneuver. Leaping from cover to cover, she weaved through a cloud of flesh-eating spores, her boots trailing micro-thrusters to soften each landing. Behind her, a squad of hover drones swooped down, intent on scanning for life forms. Nyara halted mid-leap, triggered a makeshift sonic mine disguised as debris, and watched the drones convulse as ear-searing frequencies shredded their circuits. With a fluid motion, she plucked their disrupted remains into her pack, proof of neutralization and credit toward the apex creature requirement. At Beacon Alpha Summit, the first of 3 guardians waited, a hulking quillback worm whose spines glowed with bioplasmonic energy. The guardian roared, snapping its mandibles. Many cadets faltered at this trial, but Nyara did not hesitate. She invoked a fractured grid, luring the worm into a narrow pass lined with her proton-charged filament traps. When the beast charged, the traps lanced through its hide, triggering a controlled implosion that stunned but did not kill. Nyara leapt onto the creature's flank, drove a shock harpoon deep between its armored plates, and linked the cable to her harness. The creature's thrashing was cataclysmic, but she held firm into brutal minutes. The worm lay unconscious, its spores expelled, its energy cores sapped. She plucked its crystalline heart as token another apex trophy and activated Beacon Alpha. A pulse of green light rippled across the arenascape, marking her progress. But no trial worth passing is seamless. As Nyara sprinted toward Beacon Beta, she detected movement in the mists. A rival cadet from Axiom, Lyser 9, cloaked in adaptive armor. Lyser 9 had already posted a kill on Alpha, and now sought to claim Beta himself. Their eyes met through a gap in the foliage. Lyser 9's visor flickered with contempt. Nyara's pulse raced. The vines ahead coiled like serpents, ready to entangle. Instinct took over. She discarded her harvested heart, triggering the bloodroot phalanx, vines genetically modified to respond to sonic frequency. A sharp whistle sent them crashing into Lyser 9's flank, tearing at his exoskeleton. Seizing the moment, she sprinted past him and reached Beacon Beta first, an abandoned mining rig repurposed as an energy node. Her hand flicked across the console, and the second beacon flared crimson. Lyser 9 emerged, seething. But Nyara did not look back. Her third objective lay beyond a field of acid swamps and kinetic minefields. The twin suns had risen fully, baking the air. Visibility dropped as vapor rose from the pools. Here, many cadets resorted to conventional aerial drones, fast but vulnerable to electromagnetic pulses. Nyara reached into her pack and withdrew the skull of the Midnight Claw, her ninth strategy. Primal Truth. She slotted it into a portable signal generator, its bioelectric residues acting as both power source and psychic beacon. The skull glowed with an eerie pulse that resonated with the subterranean leviathans of Solkaroth. Within moments, a colossal shadow broke the swamp's surface, a leviathan known as the Rift Maw. Its cavernous maw gaped, revealing rows of crystalline fangs where others would flee. Nyara raised her skull generator high. The Rift Maw paused, its carapace quivering at the primal resonance. As her ancestors taught, power communicates before intent. The beast bowed its head, submitting to the artifact's ancient will. With a respectful strike from her vibro blade, she felled the guardian without shedding a drop of alien ichor, preserving its corpse intact. Beacon Gamma lay just meters away, concealed within a fissure. Nyara sprinted, activated it, and the arena's holographic fields dissipated in a cascade of violet pixels. 70 minutes had elapsed. Two cadets stood on the steps of the exit platform, Nyara Vale, clutching her trio of trophies: the Quillback's heart, the Riftmaw's husk, and the Midnight Claw skull and Lyser 9, bleeding from dozens of sonic vine lacerations, his own pack half empty, as the crowd roared in the grav seats above. Cadets and examiners alike knew they had witnessed something extraordinary. 8 proofs of tactical mastery and 1 living relic, all achieved through unorthodox synergy of brute force and primal cunning. When Nyara disembarked, Commodore Halcyon awaited her beneath the rubric of 10 pillars suspended in midair. His expression was inscrutable, but his eyes shimmered with newfound respect. "Vale," he intoned, voice echoing through the concourse. "You have completed the trial of the Death World in record time, with a degree of innovation unseen in this arena. Many cadets might have taken Mirim drones or psionic blasts. You took life and relics and turned disease and fear into weapons." Nyara met his gaze steadily. "On Grathus, there is no simulation to reset you. You use everything the world offers: flora, fauna, fear to win. I simply applied that truth here." A rare, thin smile curved the Commodore's lips. "Proceed to the Hall of Records for debriefing. The Council awaits your full report, especially regarding that skull." As Nyara strode forward, the Midnight Claw relic secure at her side, she felt a surge of certainty. She had proven 8 strategies in action, and the 9th through raw presence. The 10th, however, was still waiting to be forged. But she had passed this trial. Tomorrow, the Colosseum of Mind would test her resolve anew. Yet in her veins, the pulse of the Death World beat stronger than any Holosiman unshakable reminder that where others saw fiction, she saw fact, and where others feared chaos, she thrived. The Council of 10 convened in the Crystal Hall at the apex of the ivory obelisk. Its walls hewn from flawless quartzonite refracted the violet light of Xirax Prime's twin moons into 1,000 prismatic shards. At the center of the chamber, a circular dais bore 10 pedestals, each carved with the symbol of a pillar of war, honor, discipline, precision, strategy, power, guile, unity, endurance, technology, and legacy. On each pedestal, a radiant glyph hovered, waiting for the cadet submissions. Nyara Vale entered alone, her 8 data slates strapped in a sculpted bandolier across her chest, and the Midnight Claw skull nestled in a special compartment on her hip. Her footsteps echoed against the crystalline floor, and the assembled examiners, clad in sable robes festooned with silver filaments, stilted their masked visages toward her. At the head of the dais, the High Examiner, Commodore Halcyon, raised a gaunt hand. "Vale." His voice resonated through graviton amplifiers. "You have traversed the trial of the Death World and emerged triumphant. Your 8 documented strategies proved effective. Your 9th, the skull, demonstrated a mastery of psychological warfare. Yet you remain 1 submission short." Nyara inhaled steadily, feeling the marble chill beneath her boots and the weight of countless eyes upon her. "I understand," she replied. "I have offered 8 codified maneuvers, 1 primal declaration, and retained the 10th as choice." Under fire, the Commodore's mask shifted, as though narrowing his eyes. "Choice under fire," he repeated, "an appealing notion, but one we cannot grade. War demands calculation, not faith." Thus, by the right of unseen strategy, you must now reveal your 10th. A hush fell. The other cadets seated in hovering balconies above leaned forward, bristling with anticipation. Nyra's allies and rivals alike watched her, some with admiration, others with contempt. Behind her, the pedestals glowed in sequence as she approached each. Without a word, she placed the first 8 data slates on their corresponding pillars. Honor, the evasive serpent discipline, the fractured grid precision, the bloodroot phalanx. Strategy, the veiled tide power, the emberstorm barrage guile, the mirror fang ambush unity, the ironroot shield wall endurance, the echoing bastion at the 9th pedestal. Technology, she laid the midnight claw skull, its surface cropping the holographic glyph into dissonant twinkles of raw bone. A palpable shudder rippled through the hall. Now came the moment of truth. The 10th pedestal legacy hovered empty, its glyph trembling like a heart about to break. Commodore Halcyon spoke again, quieter now, but every syllable like a hammer on steel. Name your legacy, Veil, encapsulate your final strategy, the one that transcends form and rule. Nyara stepped onto the daze's center, her shadow flaring as the prisms of moonlight converged on her. Round her, the 10 glyphs brightened, awaiting. She steadied her breath, recalling every skirmish in Grathas's jungles, the sulphurous swamps where piranha vines lurked, the obsidian caverns broken by acid rains, the silent hunts beneath emerald spores. In each, she had adapted, improvising tactics born only in the moment of mortal peril. At that instant, she understood. Her 10th was not a static plan, but a principle, a living strategy that could only be uttered, not documented. She raised her voice, letting every ounce of conviction resonate. Strategy 10, the echo of fate. A ripple of confusion ran through the balconies. The examiners' masks tilted, inscrutable, but their air chambers whistled softly. Nyara continued, unbowed. The echo of fate is the moment when all plans converge and shatter, and a warrior's choice writes a new destiny. It is the surge of instinct guided by purpose, the clarity born of chaos. No algorithm can compute it. No archive can contain it because it is the act of creation on the battlefield. It is the split-second decision that defines victory or oblivion. In the stunned silence that followed, the glyph on the 10th pedestal pulsed once, then twice. Its trembling edges solidified into a stable sigil, a fractured hourglass, infinitely turning. The hall's light flickered as if acknowledging her declaration. Commodore Halcyon inclined his head. The other 9 examiners did likewise, lowering their masks in unison for the first time in unspeakable cycles. When their visages were revealed, lines of age, battle scars, and eyes hardened by eons of warfare showed beneath starlit eyebrows. The echo of fate, the Commodore intoned, summarizes our greatest challenge, to adapt beyond doctrine and seize destiny in the crucible of conflict. By this measure, you have not only met the Academy's standards, you have redefined them. A chorus of muted gasps rippled through the balconies, then a swelling tide of applause. The cadets rose in unison, some cheering, others trembling with awe. The prisms adorning the hall radiated light that coalesced into a crown of luminescence. Above Nyra's head, you are hereby inducted as a master of the Militentium Academy. Halcyon proclaimed, in recognition of your 8 stratagems, your primal declaration, and the living strategy you have named, we elevate you to the rank of Tactician Supreme. May the echo of fate guide your actions, and may your legacy shape the wars to come. As the ceremony concluded, Nyara stepped down from the dais. Commodore Halcyon approached, extending a gloved hand. When she grasped it, she felt his grip, tighten, an unspoken acknowledgement of respect. Outside the crystal hall, the twin moons of Xerax Prime shone silver upon white marble steps. For the first time, Nyara Vale wore the insignia of Tactician Supreme across her chest, 10 overlapping chevrons with the final gilded in living bone trace. Standing upon the threshold, she gazed at the horizon where the violet sky met the spired skyline. The trials had tested every skill she possessed, her cunning, her ferocity, her indomitable will. Yet the greatest test had been of spirit, to stand before the galaxy's greatest warlords and claim that no doctrine was absolute. Behind her, the Academy doors sealed shut. Ahead lay a universe of battles yet unwon, alliances yet unformed, destinies yet unfulfilled. Nyara lifted the midnight claw skull to her lips, as if in silent vow, by claw and bone, by will and choice, I carve my path through fate itself, and in that vow, the echo of fate began its reverberation across the stars. Nyara Vale emerged from the crystal hall into the pale dawn of Xerax Prime's highest terrace. The violet sky had softened to a gray lavender hush, broken only by the distant lull of anti-orbital shield generators and the cry of patrol skimmers. In her hand, she clasped the midnight claw skull, no longer just a relic, but an emblem of her ascension. Across her chest gleamed the 10 chevrons of a tactician supreme, each edged in living bone trace and glowing faintly with bioelectric runes. Behind her, the Academy's ivory spires arched into the sky like titanic ribs. They had tested her, challenged every instinct and doctrine she possessed, and she had reshaped them. Now, as doors of polished quartzonite sealed shut behind her, a new path unfurled, not one of student drills or simulated engagements, but the uncharted frontiers of real war. A squadron of black and amber starfighters hovered on launch pads, their pulse engines thrumming in anticipation. The flagship Acheron's Vow loomed among them, a sleek battlecruiser famed for its living hull bioadapters, capable of hybridizing with crew biometrics to anticipate threats. Its captain, Commander Reeden Kai, stepped forward as Nyara descended. The ramp, eyes alight with fierce welcome. Supreme Tactician Vale, he saluted, voice rich with respect. We depart the 0 meridian jump point within the hour. Orders are prepared. Nyara nodded, letting the weight of her new rank settle. I want all intelligence on the Carthian Rebellion updated maritime maps, known pirate hive locations, psionic activity logs. Prepare the Echo of Fate protocol, full integration of instinct matrix, with adaptive drone wings. Reeden replied, tapping his compad, we'll bend fate itself for you. He glanced at the skull cradled in her satchel, reverent. That artifact's resonance changed the Academy. I can't wait to see what it does in the field. Nyara allowed herself a faint smile. May it speak louder than orders. As the launch countdown began, she made her way to the strategy deck. The holodoubles flared to life, displaying the volatile sectors beyond Xerax Prime, the Talent expanse swarming with mercenary fleets, the glass deserts of Yaloran, and the biostorm fields of Illyria. But it was the Carthian Rim that dominated the overlay systems in open revolt against the Confederated Core. Trade convoys had vanished, worlds were cut off by pirate blockades, and the rebellion's leader, the psionic warlord Tysera, had been broadcasting calls for insurrection through stolen graviton relays. Nyara studied the data with calm intensity. She overlaid her 8 strategies onto the maps, the evasive Serpent Map to convoy escort runs, the fractured grid retooled for mining settlement defenses, the Bloodroot Phalanx for jungle world outposts. Then she paused at the final blank node, the unknown variable of Strategy 10, the Echo of Fate. It shimmered on the deck like a live thing, waiting. Commander Kai watched her. We've configured the adaptive drones for your instinct matrix. They'll respond to your neural impulses sometimes faster than you can will them. Nyara's fingers hovered above the console. Good, but remember, the Echo of Fate isn't a failsafe. It's the moment you choose when doctrine dies. Trust your gut, trust the skull, and break the pattern when you must. Lights dimmed as the ship's engines crescendoed. A deep rumble vibrated through the deck plates. Through the viewport, the giant jump ring glowed cobalt, ready to fold them across space-time. She turned, feeling the pull of destiny. All hands, she said, voice clear as grav lights. Prepare for jump. Next stop, the heart of rebellion. Let them hear the echo of fate. The Dexam rose to a roar. Nyara gripped the skull, its ivory surface warm. She closed her eyes and let the ambient energies bioelectric, psionic, mechanical coalesce. In that still moment before the jump, the skull whispered of Grathas's jungles and midnight hunts. It reminded her that beyond every strategy lay choice. And as the Acheron's Vow leapt into the cobalt ring, tearing through the fabric of spacetime, Nyara Vale stood at the threshold of legend. A Deathworlder girl armed with 8 combat strategies, a skull, and the living power to carve her own fate among the stars.